in 2018 into 19, development of the idea of the product, in the middle of a bear from the 2017 collapsing into 18 market, right? And the bear is happening. Everyone's despondent to a degree. Community starts to come together. Product idea of HEX is fielded. Some game theory elements were removed and some were added, such as longer pays better and things like that were really worked out as far as game theory of how that would code. I know people were doing short stakes and they were actually getting a higher ROI in the first versions of HEX, and that got remedied. So there's a lot of different stuff about like what would this product be like, and when everyone was sad because they lost all their money in ICO land. And this concept came together, the product came together, the launch occurred. The people that threw $100, if they sat on $100 worth of HEX for even today at this price point, they've done phenomenally well. There's been market appreciation of the product as far as the value of the product itself. There's been yield as far as the APY that the game theory said would likely happen. The staking percentage versus liquid has been displayed in different websites such as Staker app or all these other websites where you could even ones that no longer do we look at. But there's a lot of different content out there looking directly at the blockchain about what's happening on HEX, the product, or the community growth or adoption, all these different narratives. And so 3 years into this product existing, we find crypto cycles might be a real thing. It might be what Richard had said 3 years ago, that we tend to have 3 years of bear and then 1 year or so of bull, that this has gone on 13 or 14 years as far as the asset class of cryptocurrency as a whole. So it's interesting that we sit 3 years into it in the middle of this winter that may or may not be going on for a while, and our tool set is available to us, because when we launched in 2019, even though we had heard about staking and we heard the concept of staking ladders, we learned also that maybe staking longer than 2 years or 3 years or 4 years would be more beneficial, and people early in stake so that they could restake. And percentages, like I remember people were making when it was less than a penny to do a transaction, and Ethereum was $120 in Ethereum. People were very willy-nilly with how much HEX that they staked, how often that they had a stake coming out. Like some people have daily stakes coming out. 3 years later, they still have daily stakes that they're managing, right? Because it was inconsequential to pay a penny for starting a stake. And people started out maybe with, 1 to 2 year horizon staking. And then, as the community grew and more knowledge about the product or, different strategies came to light, people said, maybe I'll do 15 years and I'll have an annual stake. So there's 15 stakes, or maybe I'll do it every year, every 6 months, biannually, and maybe I'll fill in those gaps. And so it was interesting to see all of that history and still know that it's on the blockchain, still know that there's people that are still managing those early decisions, whether good or bad. And now we have the benefit of educating the new participants. Here's what we did. Here's what worked out really well. Here's what probably worked out not so well because I didn't understand the product as in depth as I have now myself and others, right? And lay that over on top of the macroeconomic picture about, if money printers are turned on, a lot of things go up and to the right, not just cryptocurrency. If you're talking about the stock market, is crypto as a whole pretty much a tech stock, and it's a leveraged position on tech stocks? Is stock pretty much a leveraged position on money printers? Some of these narratives, we've become more sophisticated in our understanding of the economic picture, and then more sophisticated in our understanding of the product itself of HEX. So I think we're in a great position. One, as far as how many participants there are, known or unknown, in the product itself. And two, a lot of reflection and trends that we can look at. and overlaying it on things that are like macroeconomic cycles and the growth of our own networks. Who do we influence now that we have a platform? And now that we have a call sign as far as HEX or the icons of HEX. So that's kind of where I lead that for my answer, and I'm really curious how Dixon would interpret a lot of that.
Can you ask that question again, just so I fully understand what I'm answering? So don't.
Yeah, like macro picture of cryptocurrency. I've heard you talk a lot, and it has been about like, whether you like Bitcoin or not, you reference a lot of what goes on in HEX as, to the trend cycles of Bitcoin and the trend cycles of money printer or stock market. So most of the content I've caught of yours have been cycle information more than only the product of HEX.
So like I hopped on Twitter and stuff back in like February during like once the bear market started pretty much. And I made like the YouTube channel and Twitter name like Chartmaster. And the only reason I was doing that was because I thought that everybody's put so much work into all this community stuff for 2.5 years. And I really haven't done barely anything, to be honest with you. I used to contribute some ideas and stuff into the Telegram back when HEX was starting and stuff. Like other than that, like I haven't really done anything, but I figured I'd try to contribute, and I didn't really know what way that would be in, but I figured the first and easiest thing I could do, since I have a bunch of equipment here sitting in my office, is just start making some YouTube videos. And I honestly don't like looking at charts. I don't look at charts. I could care less about charts. For when I'm buying and selling commodities like corn and oil, I could care less. I've almost never looked at a corn chart in my entire life, and I've been selling grain for 20 years. Same thing with
the
oil.
corn in, man.
When it
I was
comes,
going to ask about corn futures here in a second. I swear they are.
When it comes to crypto, I mean, it's kind of the same way. I kind of understand the cycles. I kind of have a belief that this time is not different. That's one of my rules when it comes to how these cycles work. And that's why, I mean, I made a channel talking about charts and stuff just because there is a demographic audience that HEX people are not hitting. And I think a diversified amount of diversified content is better. If we can have somebody talking about other things, the better, instead of just everybody just talking about HEX all the time, and that's why I would rather, I mean, to be honest with you, I never intended on like being involved with all the community stuff. I wanted to have a little channel and like just talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum and large cap crypto stuff, and then like trickle in HEX information at the back and kind of shadow shill to an extent, just and not necessarily be a HEX streamer, but essentially a mainstream streamer. But I just don't have the time to do it in my current situation. But I mean, the big thing is like, I never believed, well, I shouldn't say I never believed, but I have a hard time buying into the value proposition of HEX and Bitcoin and Ethereum and all of crypto. I've always told everybody that I onboard. Currently, I believe this is all speculation, but I think there's potential for everything to, for things, value propositions to actually fulfill, I guess, is for a lack of better words, I guess. And so like Bitcoin, yeah, I don't believe Bitcoin's going to be a world money, but who knows if CBDCs start coming in and people like their freedom, maybe Bitcoin starts getting more adopted by some countries, and maybe it actually is a medium of exchange. Maybe people actually do start in higher numbers than what we have now, believing that HEX is a long-term store of value. Seeing what happened in this bear market has made me believe in this stuff a lot more, to be honest with you. With I think the biggest thing that ever happened to DeFi was Uniswap, and I don't think people appreciate how useful and how innovative that is, that we're making trades on code on the internet instead of having offices with tens of thousands of people sitting there operating your KYC and your trades. We don't have a single employee. It's people. I don't think people understand or comprehend the efficiency that some of this stuff provides. And seeing that and seeing everything collapse, but the actual DeFi stuff like Aave, I think Aave did have a little bit of a problem that they if I remember right. I just saw something online. It seemed like it had a little bit of a hiccup, but it all is working when CeFi and centralized stuff is not. So it actually gives me a little more conviction about actually believing in DeFi being more than just degenerate gambling, and believing that HEX actually does have some type of future of being the value proposition it claims to be. And same thing with a lot of this stuff.